It's Border Battle Week. Welcome into Vikings Weekly. I'm your host, Tatum Everett from the Vikings Entertainment Network, and we are gearing up for the 127th regular season meeting between the Vikings and the Packers. Minnesota is 4-6 on the season, hoping to snap a 2-game losing skid and put themselves back into playoff position. Still to come on Vikings Weekly, everyone's favorite halftime game returned, and the Mascots pull off an iconic moment you won't want to miss. Plus, head coach Kevin O'Connell joins us to give his insight on J.J. McCarthy's continued growth. And Pete Bursich shows us how Jordan Love's game has evolved and what needs to be done on Sunday to get a Vikings victory. Sunday marks J.J. McCarthy's 6th NFL start and first against the Packers at Lambeau Field. Much like when he was raising a young QB with the Packers, Aaron Jones has all the confidence in J.J. McCarthy. And McCarthy has similar feelings. He feels like he's on the doorstep of something great.
I feel like, for me, I kind of make the analogy of just like, a cork about to come off a bottle. Just understanding that it's, 1 to 3 little things that I need to change about my game that is going to make a huge difference in the outcome of every single drive in the game. So, yeah, I feel like it's really close, but it all comes down to the consistency of the fundamentals and the little details.
I feel like my goal and my responsibility is to make their job easier, but also echo to the 9 others. Yeah, because I'm 10, so that would be 11. Yeah, the 9 others, sorry. that we got to make his job easier. And once he's gotten some of those reps and some of those things, he's gonna make our jobs easier. But in the early stages, you got to make his job easier. And that's the same things that I echoed with Jordan when I was there in Green Bay with him. And it's a matter of just like execution, like I said, the 111th, catching what's thrown to you, and I've had a drop too, so I'm in that boat. But just making his life easier, because it doesn't all fall on him. If we execute and we handle some of those things, he wouldn't be getting looked at how he is.
Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell also has a lot of confidence in his young QB. He opened up to Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings, in this week's episode of X's and O's to talk about the growth that JJ has made so far this season.
Coming up on his 6th start now. I think we're all just looking for continued, evidence of the growth that he can take some of the things he's working very hard on the practice field to make. As the phrase I've been using with him, we got to start seeing this cement dry on some of the things that we've really worked hard to make football habits for him from a fundamentals and technique standpoint. I think something Vikings fans can look for is, when he gets to the top of his drops, we're really trying to see if we can get him to be a little bit more in a repeatable body position. And what I mean by that is the posture of, a firm but athletic kind of lower half. We don't really like when his feet get too far outside the framework of his body. And that happened a couple times the other day that contributed to maybe some of the accuracy. His feet got a little bit wide. His base got really wide. The other thing to really look for is when he looks decisive and kind of in the ground, compact, where he's not taking up a lot of space with his movements as he kind of goes from 1A to 1B or 1 to 2 before finding his checkdowns. When he's done it consistently, well, it's normally tied to it's got a look to it of firmness, but yet not tight and not rigid, and it kind of has a fluidity to it where he's then able to activate the arm talent from a standpoint of taking out a lot of variables. And I've talked to JJ a lot of the movement and a lot of the lack of stability to his lower half adds to a lot of variables to the play. Where you're trying to make this thing right with the ball leaving your fingertips. But I would equate it to swinging a golf club, and sometimes you swing it with your left foot on the ground, sometimes you don't, sometimes you widen your stance really. You're never going to hit that golf ball the same way. And playing quarterback is about the variables that you can control. You've got to try to make it the same and repeatable every single time, because the difference between golf and any other sport is these guys are trying to rush 1,000 miles an hour and rip your face off. And you've got to stand in there and make some throws, sometimes take some hits. But all of the things before those scenarios start to take place throughout the rhythm of a play where we don't know what defense they're in always, and we don't know exactly where the completion's going to be. So you've got to control what you can control by doing your fundamentals and techniques repeatable the same way, and take out some of those variables that are making his job harder than it has to be when we lose some of that focus throughout games.
I'd like to play a game called Coach's Choice. You select the topic, and here are the categories. You okay?
Sure.
Here we go. Your categories are the long play, full throttle feel, the other kid, cash money, and getting the edge. Which one would you like, Coach O'Connell?
Let's start backwards. Let's go getting the edge.
Getting the edge. Packers linebacker Edgerrin Cooper is who you get this weekend. He had some part-time to him last year, and this year has started all 10 for them. Edgerrin Cooper, I know you were a fan last year, probably still are this year. Has his role changed much with Micah Parsons in the mix?
I don't know if it's changed much, but you're just seeing him. You're seeing him on the field more on all downs, all three downs, first, second, third down. He's a very, very athletic run and hit linebacker that seems to be getting better and better with the more snaps he gets. And I think with Eric Wilson came here, and E. Will was kind of a foundational piece, kind of filling in some different spots, but then ended up getting a lot of playing time just because of his consistency and doing his job within that defense last year. But I think edge is kind of you really look at it and you see Cooper being a guy that you're seeing more trust put into him, you're seeing more playmaking, and he's just being on the field more is allowing him to gain some experience at a pretty rapid pace, and he's starting to become a really, really good player. But I've always been a fan of his, even going back to the draft.
Plenty more where that came from on Vikings.com or the Vikings app. Also located there, PA's partner in crime on the radio, Pete Bursich, did what he does best this week, dive into the film room and break down the matchup. Packers quarterback Jordan Love is on pace to set career numbers, and Pete shows us why.
When you dive into this Packer offense, the first thing you got to look at is Jordan Love. And personally, I think Jordan Love is much better when he's on the move. Let me show you some examples of what I'm talking about. On this first play, it's going to be a regular dash where you're just getting the quarterback out on the edge of the defense, cutting the field in half, making things a little bit more simple, right? That's a programmed dash for him to get to the outside. However, this is where it's supposed to go, running back in the flat. The quarterback is supposed to be able to continue outside uninterrupted. However, he's getting some pressure, and what you don't see is this guy, the wide receiver, coming across the middle of the field. Jordan Love, after being disrupted, is able to put his foot in the ground, avoid contact, get back up, and get the football to the wide receiver. Ultimately, this one was dropped, but that's not on Jordan Love. Another type of play that gets the quarterback on the move is the bootleg. Jordan Love executes these brilliantly. You see the beginning, extra tight ends, right? Big, looks like they're gonna run the football. Ends up being play action, Watson in the backfield. Now watch when Love gets to the top of his drop. This is ideally when the ball wants to be let go. But look at this, the wide receiver is being covered, but he's being covered by a linebacker, right? Watch Jordan Love on this. He has such unbelievable feel. Instead of throwing the football now, where it might be batted down, he just waits and holds it, doesn't get to the line of scrimmage, and waits until the receiver gets past the linebacker. So when this ball is let go, you can see this relationship. Receiver past the linebacker. He's getting into the flat, and by the time that ball gets there, boom, look at the separation. This gives the receiver the opportunity to do what? Turn this thing up, and it's all because of the legs and the timing of Jordan Love. The other thing that mobility gets you, it's making plays when the play breaks down. This is what scares me the most going against a guy like Jordan Love, the ability to make things up. He and his wide receivers being on the same page. Again, big people in the game, get the hard downhill run fake. As Jordan Love gets to the top of his drop, there is absolutely nowhere to go. This deep over route, you've got two defenders underneath it. This route down at the bottom is triangulated. They got a corner on the outside, safety on top, linebacker, and there's nowhere for Jordan Love to throw this football. So what does he do? He starts moving around, buying some time, and watch the receiver. As soon as Jordan Love started to scramble, he worked his way out into the flat. A huge gain on a nothing play because Jordan Love can use his legs. Another example of Jordan Love using his legs to get his receivers open. This is a 1st and 20 play. So the Giants are in, they're in an umbrella style of defense. They're gonna keep everything in front of them. Watch what's called right here, though. You get the empty snap. This is just a curl on the backside here by Romeo Doubs. Jordan Love throws his football, he might get 4, 5 yards, maybe. But Jordan Love sees an opening in the protection. What does he do? He starts to step up. And why is he doing that? He's doing that to put pressure on the defender that's covering Doubs. That guy's going to have to make a decision. Do I go for the quarterback? Do I cover Doubs? And then on top of it, Doubs says, you know what? I'm just going to pirouette, get behind this defender, and I'm going to get back 13 of the 20 yards that we want to get. So again, Jordan Love making plays with his legs. Now, one of the things that's different about this Packers team, Christian Watson is back. And it's been a while since we've really had to worry about him per se due to injury and other things. He was on fire over the weekend. Let me show you what I'm talking about. On this first play, goal line play, you're going to get a play action, quarterback's rolling out. You see Watson in the back of the end zone, comes down with the catch. Pretty good catch, right? But wait until you see this from the end zone. Now, you're going to see Watson coming into the picture on the right side of your screen. You fake the dive. Watson working to the back of the end zone. He's trying to set up. Hard to tell if this ball is supposed to go to the crosser or to Watson on the curl. You've got a pile of bodies. The DB in the air just might have tipped the football. You couldn't tell. So this ball could have been touched by 2, maybe 3 guys before it gets through, hits Watson right. What concentration on the football in a week of drops all across the NFL. Christian Watson coming up big with that catch in the back of the end zone. Whenever we're talking about Christian Watson, it's his ability to get vertical and how the Packers integrate that into their play-action passing game. That's a huge problem. Before the ball is snapped, however, take a look at what you have. You have a number of Packers right here. You have a tackle, tight end, wide receiver, inside the tight end. They're piling up bodies there. Why? To make it look like a run. And conversely, look at the Giants. They've got a ton of white jerseys all piled up on a line of scrimmage. But it's all a ruse. It's all to get behind him. So watch what happens. Jordan Love takes the snap.
You can catch more with Pete on Vikings.com or the Vikings app, especially how the Vikings offense should approach Micah Parsons and this Green Bay defense. Well, who doesn't love a mascot game? It's probably one of my favorite things, my favorite halftime shows, and I can't wait to show you what happened on Sunday. The Mascots had tough competition against the Spring Lake 5th grade tackle football team, but Victor the Viking and his pals ready for the challenge. The Mascots with the ball first. Victor back to pass, rolling to his right, takes a shot to the end zone. He finds a wide open Rowdy from the Dallas Cowboys, and the Mascots take an early lead. Yeehaw! On the next drive, Spring Lake within striking distance. He gets a nice block from Rory. PK Loon can't stop him, and the kids are on the board. Spring Lake with a beautifully executed play. Check out that block. They hit pay dirt and tie things up. The Mascot game featured a mystery guest, McDonald's Grimace. He takes the handoff from Victor up the middle. It takes 4 guys to take him down. Wow, what a guy. He puts the Mascots in great scoring position. So naturally at the line, it's the tush push. Absolutely incredible. Victor in, following PK Loon with a huge block, and the tush push works every time. Spring Lake has one last try. Victor the Viking forces a fumble. They try to take it outside, but Goldie the Gopher is there, denying it. And the Mascots go on to victory. However, everyone wins in this game. It's all about fun at the end of the day. Thank you so much to the Spring Lake 5th grade football tackle team and our Mascots. Still to come on Vikings Weekly, Dallas Turner opens up about how things have changed for him in year 2. We check in with the funny guys at the tailgate to hear their hilarious takes on Rivalry Week. And Vikings legend Anthony Barr shows us his favorite game in the purple. Stick around. Welcome back into Vikings Weekly. I'm your host, Tatum Everett, and if you like a rivalry, you're in luck because it's Packers Week. Head coach Kevin O'Connell is 4-2 against Green Bay and swept them last season. It was actually outside linebacker Dallas Turner's first trip to Lambeau Field, and it made a mark. Now he gets to return, coming off his best performance of his career.
Speaking of that defense and getting after it, you're looking at Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner is their first-round pick from 2 years ago. He is extremely athletic.
And he gets swarmed immediately for nothing.
He is big, fast, very fluid in space.
Dallas Turner gets the first Viking sack of the day.
Well, a big performance from you on Sunday. Quite the stat line. Some would say breakout. How would you describe it?
You know, just another weekend for another opportunity to go out there on Sundays and, you know, just execute at a high level within the scheme of the defense that we run.
7 tackles, 3 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for a loss, a sack, and a pass defended. And that was just from you. What about this game in particular clicked?
Coaches, you know, just a regular week, you know, same old meetings in the morning, same old afternoon routine and stuff like that. It just so happened to be that game, you know, where stuff started flying and stuff, so.
Was there a play on Sunday that you think you'll remember the most?
Probably missing a sack.
Oh no,
Yeah.
You get that stat line and that's the one?
Probably missing a sack, yeah.
In some trouble. Stays on his feet again. Dallas Turner had him in his grasp.
It's regular to perform at a high standard here. So, you know, just having Coach Flo, you know, in our ears all the time telling us about the standard is always being the standard. Being a Minnesota Viking, the standard is always high. And, you know, every single day we walk into this building trying to fulfill that high standard. So I feel like that's just the mindset going into each day and then leading into Sundays when it's time to execute.
What is something you did this week to capitalize on the momentum of last game?
Target that Lord and Savior every single day. You know, I feel like that's part of my biggest thing, you know, is my faith in God. You know, knowing without him I'm nothing. And, you know, just talking to him consistently throughout the day, you know, and just understanding what I need to do as a person, you know, how I can better my teammates and better my spirit, you know, so I can elevate the spirits around me.
Well, Dallas Turner obviously feels what it's like to be a part of the Vikings-Packers rivalry, and so do the guys in our next segment. Comedians Cy Amundsen and Chad Daniels reflect on being involved in this biannual rivalry each and every year in the latest episode of The Tailgate.
Can I ask you a question about Lambeau?
Please.
Because begrudgingly, I think we can both admit, such a cool place.
It's great. Yeah.
It's the closest. Maybe this is a dumb comparison, but it's the closest you get to the English soccer vibe, where a tiny town of a few tens of thousands has a giant stadium and a team. That's what it feels like. It's so incredible. But the question I always have, and I always ask when I meet somebody from Green Bay or who lives there, like, in today's modern age with how big it's all become, how do you experience that? Because you and I, Alexandria, Fergus Falls, my dad's from Detroit Lakes. We're right near Detroit Lakes, and we know what it's like when WeFest comes to Detroit Lakes.
Right.
And I know a guy who told me once, he's like, I would rather eat my own foot than be in Detroit Lakes during WeFest. And I wonder, I mean, you either have to lean one way or another. If the Vikings move to Fergus Falls,
yeah,
and you still live there, are you loving every minute of that, or do you want to get out of Fergus Falls and travel to where the Vikings play? Would you love a pro team in your tiny, small town?
No, because too many people come. So, you know, even in the summertime, have a little cabin up there. There's a town called Battle Lake that has, I think 8,000 people in it. No, that's way too big, maybe. I mean, we might be talking about even hundreds of people in it. And then in the summertime, it's 30,000 people.
Yes.
And so that's too much because you never know. You don't get to vet who's coming. No one has to fill out an application to get into the town, and I'm not into it.
It would be, of the imagination scenarios of ways you could get rich, I do think one of the cool ways would be like, yeah, we just owned a couple of houses in Green Bay kind of near the stadium. Mm-hmm. And then 20 years later, we were like, well, let's go buy a palace and retire somewhere. Yeah. Like, that's all-time real estate. Because those houses, and they're like, that is one of the cooler parts of the vibe, is just walking past that row of houses that are all partying and tailgating. That feels so authentic and unique, where you're like, that's a neighborhood, that's a stadium, and Chad could probably hit both of them with a baseball.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And speaking of owning things and the Packers, boy, did their fans love to tell you that they own the team. But when you say, hey, call down to the field and let's run this one, they don't have any access to that. So you don't own anything. Let's just stop it. They gave you a certificate so you could feel important.
You can find that episode of The Tailgate anywhere you listen to your podcast, as well as the Vikings app or Vikings.com. Another person who knows this rivalry very well is former Vikings linebacker Anthony Barr, who recently retired. He took a look back at some of his best performances in the purple, and it may not surprise you, but his favorite game of all was a Packers game.
Out of bounds, and that's going to take us, unless Aaron can spike it here.
Can't spike it.
That's going to do it. It's also 4th down.
This is probably my favorite game I ever played in. 2015-16 season, playing up at Lambeau, winner wins the NFC North and gets a home playoff game. He snaps at 0, the game's over, but we're playing in Lambeau, so obviously they're gonna bend the rules a bit, maybe a lot. And we didn't even get a chance to really call this defense because it was a hurry up play by them, so the awareness of our guys, and he throws such a good ball, let alone a Hail Mary that's just completely on the money. All I'm thinking is don't be on SportsCenter for the wrong reasons. Let's please get out of this with a win. We worked so hard to get to this point. Let's not try and be a hero. Let's just go knock it down. It does look like I'm trying to catch it, actually, so I was trying to be a hero. But fortunately, it hits the ground before their guys catches it, and Vikings win.
And the Minnesota Vikings are NFC North Division champions!
I think maybe not since this play, but for the last while, I feel like we've been very competitive with these guys, neck and neck. It's not going to be the typical Vikings or the typical Packers cakewalk through the division. It's like we're here, we're for real. You know, we're a real team. We're going to be here for a while. There's no reason why we can't do it again this year.
Anthony Barr shares more of his favorite moments as a Viking at Vikings.com or the Vikings app. And you can also catch up on anything for Sunday's matchup there as well, because it's going to be a big one, another rivalry game. Packers and Vikings from Lambeau Field, Sunday at noon on Fox. Thanks for watching, and Skol Vikings.